Okay, so now we're going to look at finding the length of the side. So yesterday or last time, you started going over the ratios and how to find sine, cosine, tangent. Now you're actually going to use that ratio to find a missing side. So flip it up. The first one, you're on sine, and we'll be looking at the finding side. So looking over here, we're missing a side. So what we want to do is try to find x, this side over here. So if you look, our theta is given to us. It's 41 degrees. So theta in this case is equal to 41 degrees. The sides we have are the opposite and the hypotenuse. So when we have the opposite and the hypotenuse, we would end up using sine. And in this case, we know all of them are going to be sine because it is our notes and they say sine. So our equation that we would use would be sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So we know our theta is 41 degrees and it's equal to the opposite, which is x, over our hypotenuse. We want to solve that equation for x. So to get x by itself, because 17 is on the bottom, you're going to multiply both sides by 17. So our x is equal to 17 times sine of 41 degrees. So we're going to plug that into our calculator. And I know that was showing you a lot of steps. Let's get it so that there's no glare. But I want you to see where everything comes from. So if you go to new document, you want to save, say no, go to add calculator. We're going to type in the 17 times sine. Where's sine? It's underneath the trig. Trig is by the equals. You look in the bottom corner, you can see trig sine of 41 degrees. You want to make sure your calculator is in degrees. You see up at the top by the X and the battery that it's DEG. That means it is degrees. And you hit enter. We get that X is 11.153. We want to round to 2 decimal places. So we want that x is equal to 11.15. Okay, so x is equal to 11.15. Looking at number 6, here's my theta. Theta is 73 degrees. They give you the opposite, and we're trying to solve for the hypotenuse. So sine of 73 is equal to your opposite, which is 29, over the hypotenuse, which is x. So in this case, when you go to get x by itself, if you remember the video, you can just switch the x in sine of 73. But for those who don't see it, we're going to solve for x by multiplying both sides by x. So you get that x sine of 73 degrees is equal to 29, because now the x's cancel out. And then to get x by itself, you'll divide both sides by sine of 73. So this is what I was saying. You end up with an equation of x is equal to 29 divided by sine of 73 degrees. So see how the x and the sine of 73 degrees, when x is on bottom, you can just switch. That's what would happen when you solve for it. So remember that for next time. So if we type it in as a fraction, 29 divided by sine of 73, you get that x equals 30.3251. So x equals 30.33. And that's your answer. So get that. Then we're going to move up, and we're going to be doing cosine. There's 2 examples for finding side here as well. So here's our theta. We were given the opposite and we're given the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So this is your cosine, C-A-H. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So you would have the cosine of 62 is equal to adjacent, which in this case is your x, over the hypotenuse, which is 7. So to get x by itself, you multiply both sides by 7. So you get that x is equal to 7 cosine of 62 degrees. So when we have x equals 7, cosine 62 would be 7 times cosine of 62 degrees. Remember, make sure your calculator is in degrees, and we get x equals 3.2863. So we round to 2 decimal places. We get 3.29. And right now, we're always going to be using 2 decimal places. So you need to learn how to round. If you have issues, you need to ask. So looking at number 12, we have our hypotenuse, which is x, and we have the adjacent, which is 27. So we still be using cosine. We'll have cosine of 24 degrees is equal to adjacent, which is 27, over the hypotenuse, which is x. So remember, if you don't know how to get x by itself here and you don't understand, these can switch. So you might need to learn how to solve. Look back at your sine example. So we have x is equal to 27 over cosine of 24 degrees. So you type that in as your fraction. You have 27 on top, and I have cosine 24 degrees on bottom. You get x is equal to 29.5552. I'll show you how to round this one time. 5552. I want to look here. So that means I need to look at that third spot. That's a 5, so that's going to push my other one up. So it's x is equal to 29.56. Okay? So we're going to do finding sides of a tangent. So looking over here, finding sides for tangent. So we know what these are. Guys, sometimes you're not always going to know cosine, tangent, or sine. You're going to have to figure out based on what they gave you. So looking at 17, here's my angle. They gave me the opposite and the adjacent. So this is the tangent of 75 degrees is equal to opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 18. So in this case, we'll just be multiplying both sides by 18 to get x by itself. So it's equal to 18 times tangent of 75 degrees. So we type that in. 18 times tangent of 75 degrees is 67.1769. So 67.17, it's a 6, so it's going to become a 1/8. We're looking at number 18. They gave me the opposite, and the x is the adjacent. So tangent of 39 is equal to opposite, which is 49, over the adjacent, which is x. So I'm going to switch those. So x is equal to 49 over tangent of 39 degrees. And that's just simple solving, okay? So we type it into the calculator, 49 on top, tangent of 39, 60.51. It came back as 2 decimal places, so I just use what they gave me, 60.51.